In my hands, I have two of the ingredients, whole wheat grains and flour. The other two ingredients are water and a great deal of patience. Yet, from these simple beginnings emerges something surprisingly rich. For centuries, springtime in Europe was inseparable from the 40 days of fasting before Easter. Meat, and for a long time, dairy and eggs were avoided during Lent. Children, of course, have never been particularly fond of fasting, so mothers and grandmothers turned to recipes that honored the rules of Lent, yet still offered something comforting and sweet. Sprouted wheat porridge, or csíramálé as we call it in Hungary, required none of the forbidden ingredients. Even more importantly, it was remarkably sweet on its own, without refined sugar or honey, which were rare and precious luxuries at the time. To the modern taste buds, this sprouted wheat porridge may seem unusual, and yet it is a gentle reminder of how resourceful people can be in times of need. To begin, I place the wheat grains in a deeper bowl and pour in enough room temperature water to fully cover them. It's best to soak them for about 2 or 3 days. Once they've soaked long enough, the grains will visibly swell, and by the 3rd day, you may even notice the tiny white tips of the first rootlets appearing. Next comes the sprouting stage, which usually takes another 4 to 5 days. A sprouting tray is the most convenient option, but this time I used the traditional method. I laid a damp kitchen towel on a tray, spread the grains over it, then covered them with another layer of towel and moistened that as well. The sprouting wheat needs to be misted with water 2 or 3 times a day, but it should never sit in water, as that would easily lead to mold. To prevent mold, it's also important to rinse the grains at the same time each day. It's very important that the grains remain in the dark while sprouting. I'll explain why a little later. By the time the sprouts reach 3 to 5 centimeters in length, they are ready to be used for csíramálé. By then, the grains will have formed a dense mat. In the video, you can see me gently tearing it apart. I grind the sprouted grains in small batches using a blender. At first, the amount of water may seem like a lot, but I add another handful of sprouts once the machine has broken down the grains already inside. Traditionally, of course, people used a meat grinder, so no extra water was needed, though they did grind the sprouts twice. I let the ground mixture rest in the water for about 20 minutes. First, I strain off most of the liquid, then I use a kitchen cloth to make sure every drop of the precious milky extract is pressed out. In the past, the leftover sprout pulp was gladly eaten by pigs and chickens, but it's also excellent for compost. To the white sprout milk, I add the flour and whisk it until smooth. The texture should be fairly thin, similar to pancake batter. This time, I divided the batter between small ramekins and the larger pie dish. I'm curious to see whether there will be any difference. In the oven at 180 degrees Celsius, using conventional top and bottom heat, the csíramálé breaks down in about 2 hours. Though I noticed the ramekins were ready about 15 minutes earlier. And now it's almost time to taste the csíramálé. But before I forget, I promised to explain why darkness matters for the sprouting. As promised, Let's take a closer look at what happens inside the sprouting wheat grain. Inside each grain lies an embryo, the future plant, surrounded by the much larger endosperm. The endosperm serves as stored energy, mainly in the form of starch. When warmth and moisture signal favorable conditions, the grain begins to germinate. Enzymes activate and start breaking down starch into simpler sugars. This is why freshly sprouted wheat tastes sweet. However, once exposed to light, the young plant begins photosynthesis. At that point, it no longer relies solely on its stored reserves. The sugars produced are quickly used for growth rather than accumulating within the sprout. In short, sprouting in darkness preserves sweetness. Sprouting in light produces a greener, more vegetal taste. And finally, it's time to taste our csíramálé.
Oh my god, it's so sweet! It's hard to believe I did not add any sugar. It's very creamy and custard-like. It has a nice caramel flavor on top. I don't think I would trade modern desserts for this sweet treat, but I do believe keeping old recipes alive is important. So if you know any old forgotten recipes like this one, share it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, a like or a share would mean a lot to me.
Thank you for being here. If you'd like to support the channel, you can like, comment or subscribe. It truly means a lot.